Hey, how's it going, all? I just want to do a quick sort of summary and some thoughts on the ball Earth, flat Earth discussion. I've been in hangouts, kind of pretty much every day for the last little while, and just had a couple things to share. So, it looks like from my vantage point, for me personally, there's a lot of progress and more motivation daily to be on the flat Earth side, not just technical things, just qualitative things as well. Reaffirming that we do indeed live on a flat surface, and largely because of the behavior, I would say, of the opposite side. It's like if this thing is indeed curved and doing all the things that it's proclaimed to be doing, there would be so many different ways that this could be proven with modern day technology. And even if it's not done, it could be proposed and executed upon at some point. And so just getting tests that really, really, truly distinguish two different geometries is like pulling teeth, with the ballers. And so that's strange to me. I was on a hangout last night where somebody did suggest putting, two lasers shooting on two boats towards each other at a very, very close distance, and then have the boats go in opposite heading, and then eventually, on a curved surface, that those lasers would eventually have to start shooting upwards. And if the Earth was flat, it would just continue to shoot sort of along a collinear. Obviously, there's the lasers are not perfect, but for the most part, if the Earth were flat, then the lasers would be shooting approximately at each other, for a long time. And then basically that would not be the case. It would be very, very obvious at some point when the two boats go sufficiently far enough that, that intersection point would rise up. And so, stuff like that is, there's some ambiguity just because, the issues of how the lasers are. But if they're both the same, first of all, the lasers are identical, and then the divergence can be actually calculated and understood, and then you do see like a consistent rise in the intersection point. I mean, that pretty much is only Earth curve that can be doing that. Again, if the water is fairly stable and the boats go out and then they stop for a minute so we can get a capture of the intersection point. Like literally, you'd have just a person at the intersection point documenting the intersection of these lasers. And so it would need maybe like a reflecting sheet or something like that. And something like that, to me is it's rigorous and it leads to a unique solution. And so more and more stuff like that, where a unique geometry would come out from tests. And again, the nice thing about that one, it's fairly elegant and simple, and then you could do it in tons of water bodies. And it's pretty straightforward. So, but all I'm saying is the tests like that, where they're, the result is a unique solution, I think is good, and I think we need more and more of those. And just over time, naturally, the more that they get built up, people will just start doing them, and put data points out there that are very, very hard to go against, especially again, if a test like that is repeated and produces the exact same results, and that to me is progress, because like I've said many, many times, there's no way for the side that's quote unquote on the losing team to hide forever. It's impossible. If the Earth is indeed a ball, then we can't dismiss every single data point that's presented to us. Eventually there will just be an overwhelming amount, again, over time. And I'm not even saying really that much time. I'm thinking just if I could fast forward 10 years and this dialogue were to just, let's say there was always a few flat earthers out there that were just kind of bugging all the ball earthers enough to keep, doing different tests. The amount of tests and observations that would accumulate over 10 years with the amount of technology we have out there now, and then ramp that up, possibly non-linearly in the next 10 years, it would be overwhelming. I don't think we would, not only that, we would have the geometry of the shape of the Earth mapped to many, many decimal places. It's like if there's uncertainty now, slightly, in the actual geometry and all that, there won't be going forward, 10 years. So That's just, again, just common sense and just the way things are. As long as there's, people and interested in something and enough of them, and then having some amount of resources to pursue it, it's just it's a natural result. It's a corollary of that fervor. And so that's that, but I like getting those little gems, those little nuggets of tests that come from the ballers, and that one came from a baller, and I think that's good. I think more and more tests like that from them, that just by them stating it gives them some amount of buy-in into it. And I think, again, if we build a list of 5 to 10 of those that, again, maybe will not even necessarily happen tomorrow, but really do, give a quote unquote unique result, or cannot be ambiguous, I think it's good. To me, that's the only real sort of technical fruit, that comes out of these debates. And I'm part of the problem, if anybody's heard me in some of these. So I'm like, slinging mud and stuff like that, and some of it's theatrics. But really, these kind of tests are really the main reason, I would say, that both sides should be interested in these kind of dialogues, because like I said, a list of those, and not even a huge list. If you give me 5 to 10 tests that people have proposed from both sides, and we literally just make a list, let's just say, of 10 tests that people agree that, yeah, in this situation it would do that, and then if the earth was flat it would do that, and we made a list of 10 things using, you can use similar technology, but preferably different technology, and then it's repeated in 10 different parts of the world. Let's say you have 100 data points. I mean, and they all produce the same result. They all say a ball, or they all say it's flat, then it is that. It's like, that's just what it is. And so I think that, and then, again, that reaffirmed going forward. Let's say that one geometry, let's say it was flat, was determined from those 100 data points, and then people still over time, double checked it, as technology got better and better, just for self accountability, because I don't think it's ever a bad thing to utilize the latest technology to confirm things we already know, and it's a good way to calibrate that new technology as well. And that's what will happen. And so I think that both sides can take comfort in that, and I certainly do. But I did want to say, just what I'm realizing more and more, for me personally, why these debates have at least a slight spiritual aspect. Like I said, a lot of it is theatrics and just killing time, I'll be honest, for me personally. But and I do learn things a little bit here and there. But I think that it's a spiritual thing to me, in the sense that we are out, people who take time to do these kind of things, and I'm not saying I'm dedicating a disproportionate amount of time or deserve anything for this. Again, a lot of this is just for me personally, killing time, because I work from home, so I have a bit of spare time, and for me it kind of makes the day go by. So it's kind of interesting, even if I'm just listening in. But it's like we as quote unquote truthers, and again, we still don't know that it's true with 100% certainty, but for me it's becoming more and more evident that we are indeed on a flat surface that's not spinning. We're kind of searching for we are searching for others, who have this, in my opinion, pre-programmed desire to hear truth, and people know what truth sounds like, and I also believe that people who are pushing lies, they also are only allowed to push those lies. When something is true that is said to them, they're not allowed to recognize it, and it's even staunch Christians. People have been Christians their whole life, and I mentioned that Jesus is dark skinned. It offends them, and they're like, oh, it doesn't matter, and what do you want me to do, and you want me to teach about black Jesus and all this stuff. And so it's people are just pre-programmed to not be allowed to accept certain truths, and it's becoming very, very obvious, and that one is one. But even certain mainstream financial things, which again is just, there's just a flood of information now in the mainstream about how bad the economy is, and I was just literally reading on Reddit, this is the unemployed section. This individual, the title was, he or she just posted, just need to vent. I graduated college back in August 2018 with a bachelor's in computer science. Since then, I've tirelessly been applying to job after job, 187 on Indeed alone. It's been 9 months with only a handful of interviews to show for. I've even applied for part-time jobs, but nothing has become of that either. Past professors and friends say my resume is fine, so I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. I'm living at home, feel like a financial burden to my family. It's definitely the lowest I've felt in my life, and I'm hoping I never hit rock bottom like this again. This is an individual just starting out their career and pursuing a field that is quote unquote in demand, computer science. I can't think of one that would be more at this time, at this age that we live in. And that's just, again, it's not like, the whole economy is based on that one person, but the reality is let's say there are, I'm assuming that individual is obviously not alone. There's other people going through that. But to go that long without even going deep into an interview or, anything like that, they didn't go in more detail than that. But I'm assuming that, they probably really haven't had that many serious interviews in the late stages. And even then, that's, job rec can be pulled and, priorities can change and all that kind of stuff. So there's still risk even going late in the game. But, if people are going through that with degrees that are heralded as, useful, to the economy, that's a major, major problem. And so there's a lot of stuff now that's very much in the mainstream. You don't really have to look that far. And the only thing that is, doing well is the stock market. And I guess people that work for the government, because they're just allowed to print money to make up their deficits. So they'll always get paid. So people who are sort of within arm's reach of the government funding and or central banking, then those are the only people that are kind of doing well, and that's the state of our economy, and I think that's just, again, mainstream news. And so, it's becoming increasingly obvious that, why certain people are involved in this discussion, and then that they're not allowed to talk about certain things. And so that to me implies that, there's something else going on, and that something else is they're hiding certain things, and they're gatekeepers. And so, I think that this whole thing is all of us pushing past those gates and those gatekeepers and asking questions and trying to find other people who have similar questions, and want to know why we're here, want to know our purpose, and, want to know why there's so much evil in the world, and, the wealth disparities and all those kind of things, and just why there's so many lies. Why are people so emotional? Why are people not trying to teach us anything? Why when we ask questions are we an idiot? They don't want to take us to the lowest granular level of understanding and build us up in something that's true, and then we can go and verify and double check ourselves. Why do we have to pull teeth, twist people's arms to come up with tests that will verify the shape of the earth, even if we're just doing it as a thought experiment? I'm still to this day debating ballers about drones being able to fly over water in a predictable path, and this problem has been solved a long time ago, like decades ago. It's simple. If they claim that we put a rover or some golf cart on the moon and we're driving that thing around, but you can't fly a drone in a straight path over water, and straight is something that is ambiguous or dubious or not possible to a drone. That's preposterous. That to me is a flat earth proof. That's a technology denier and a gatekeeper, because those statements are just absurd, and even if somebody did hold that stance, they're not allowed to say that would be the case forever, because that's a trivial problem to solve. It's like you could say with modern day tech, with stuff off the shelf, that would be challenging to get a drone to fly in a straight path over water right now. Okay, fair enough, maybe in a commercial sense or off the shelf drones. But again, commissioning an engineering firm, especially one who specializes in drones, and now, like I've posted on my channel, that they're doing, races and stuff with drones. This is becoming a hobby. It's like a sport, and people are doing deliveries with drones and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't make sense, and unless there's something else going on. And like I am alluding to, that something else is that they're hiding the shape of the earth. And so I would say that for me personally, these debates and dialogues, just so people have some element of, so I have some element of transparency with people, that, I'm going on there for my own curiosity, and just to kind of confirm what I believe strongly, and then kind of fishing for other people who have similar doubts about whether we're on a spinning ball, and trying to connect with other people, who are asking similar questions and want to know certain things about our reality, not just the geometry of the earth, but just the goings on earth, and just how it's completely chaotic and it's just inundated with lies. And so, the reason I know the Bible, the reason I know the earth is flat from a biblical perspective is just that the Bible speaks against lying. And so if the Bible is so against lying with the Ten Commandments and other things, but it either is ambiguous about the shape of the earth or lying about the fact that the earth is flat, which I believe is supported by many, many, many verses. But, that would be a very, very strange document, to have persevered over the course of human history. That would be strange. That would be very, very outlandish. And we have some of these ballers who are saying that Jesus Christ never existed, and it's becoming very, very obvious where their heart and mind is. They're just gatekeepers, and even if that were the case, let's say people truly did believe that Jesus Christ didn't exist, why are they then not speaking out publicly and holding rallies against all the churches and mosques and the Jews who at least acknowledge his existence but don't worship him as the Messiah? But where's the large scale protests about that? There's churches like on every other street corner out here going unchecked, if Jesus Christ never existed. So this is absolutely preposterous. These are people who are technology deniers and history deniers, and we're just showing them to be optics deniers, and that there are very, very complicated things going on with what we see. And it's just adding to the list of things that they are not scholarly about, and honest about. So, again, we're still kind of figuring these things out and, learning about our surroundings and asking questions. And again, uninterrupted, absolutely no way this debate would take on, have any real fervor behind it after 10 years with the amount of data points that would be out there. And I think even that would be a long, long time. And again, as long as it's not unobstructed by YouTube and all that, where we can't collaborate, that would be plenty of time to solve this. So the last thing I want to say, I do want to say, I just made some notes about this, is that God does rejoice over finding the one that has gone astray, over the 99 that stayed. And so it's that's in many ways why I feel like it's good for us to do this, to like put our voice out there and just look for other people who in this case I feel have gone astray from the mainstream narrative, and I think that's a good thing, and so in Jesus's example, he's talking about the 99 who stayed on course and the one who's veered off, which would be the one going into this beast system. But finding that person and then letting them know, about things that are, again, now mainstream news, like the economy sucks. America is definitely on an inflection point. In my opinion, it's been like that for years. And it's okay to talk about it, and be open about it. And the Bible prophesies a very, very scary time for America. And that would be the will of God if it's true. And so, we would be contributing, and supporting a narrative that has already been predestined. And so that's not a bad thing. If the God of the Bible, if the God of the Bible is true, and we are in the end times, America is on the verge of facing very, very scary times. Famine, death, mourning, and destruction, as it's the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. And so it's not us that came up with this narrative. And so it's not wrong to point out how it's becoming more and more likely and evident that is the case, and well deserved. And again, may God spare us from excessive pain in these times. And so it's not wrong. Obviously complaining, in my opinion, only to God is the thing that makes sense. That's why I keep trying to remind people that God is the author of good and evil. If we have qualms in these days, we don't go to the baller scholars. We don't go to our boss necessarily, or the government or anything. On minor things, of course, it's not wrong to discuss these things on a human level. But these major things, all we can do is complain to God, because they're just overwhelming, and people are being squished on all sides. And to me, that's all that God would expect us to do. And the Bible even says, about people sighing and crying for the abominations that are done. There's a verse. Let me get that verse really quick. So there's a verse that in Ezekiel 9 verse 4. Let me read it in King James. So Ezekiel 9 verse 4-6 says, "And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof." And so that's a very, very powerful verse that reminds us that the marks that God gives are spiritual in nature. And so this is a spiritual mark that he's talking about in Ezekiel 9-4. And it goes on afterwards to say, "And to the others he said in mine hearing, Go ye after them through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women. But come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary," the children of Israel. "Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house." And so this is the God of the Bible. A lot of people don't like it, but you're not allowed to make up your own God. I'm not either. That's a scary thought. And so in the very least, we can't guarantee that we are of those people that are spared, but God wants us to sigh and cry for the abominations that are done by ourselves, by us individually, and that are happening around us. And so that is one of the many, many requirements, to align with the God of this Bible. And being charitable and faithful and compassionate is another one as well, a major one, more important than just simply complaining. But my only point is that it's not wrong, and we're looking for other people who are complaining about the same things for the same reasons. And the most pure ethic, in my opinion, is to look out for other people and that kind of thing. Even people that we are quote unquote enemies, even people who are atheists and people who in many ways would align with this system are being left out. And so to me, that's another major reason why we have to be close to the end, because even people who want to be a part of this system they can't find a job, they're running out of money, etc. And so the last point I want to make is about Christian ballers. And so to me, it's becoming more and more obvious where people's spirits are. And it's never wrong to test people's spirits. Mine always, and others always ask people questions. Why are people doing things? What are your motivations? Why are you on these hangouts every day? And so I'm trying to be as transparent as I can. And if people need more info, obviously, in a private session or otherwise, I'll let them know what exactly my motivation is. But largely, it's just the mark of the beast, trying to find other people who are seeking truth and asking questions and want to know their surroundings, and not just the geometry, but why are these things going on around us, and the financial manipulation and all that kind of stuff. And so, that's very, very important. But these Christian ballers, to me, are some of the worst people, because Christianity, the Bible, speaks of, like I was saying, that the end times will be marked with a beast system. I believe we're living in the belly of the beast, but the Bible prophesies that a beast system will rule the end times. And so, and that's obvious. That's playing out right in front of our eyes, and really everybody knows this if they're even just paying slight attention to the news, and also the mainstream news. It's not, you don't have to dig that deep, go into alternative media sources. It's obvious. So they should be very, very vocal about that, just by definition, by being a Christian, quote unquote Christian, and I put that in quotes on purpose. And that aspect, a lot of these Christian ballers in these hangouts fail miserably, struggling to speak out against the mainstream obvious satanic governments worldwide. And then that's one major ding against them. And then the second ding is that they don't have to be necessarily a flat earther if they don't feel that conviction, but they should be neutral. It shouldn't affect them if the earth is flat, because there are many, many verses that support flat Earth and make no mention of an oblate sphere moving through a vacuum, and none of that stuff spinning or anything like that. So there's no even hint of that anywhere, and even baller scholars have said that even Isaiah 40:22, which talks about the circle of the earth, specifically talks about like a 2D plane, and this is like Trevor Valet and the Non Sequitur broke that down in the Hebrew and all that. And so even their own side is conceding that the Bible cannot be interpreted any other way. You could either say it's neutral or it's a flat earth book. And so Christian ballers coming in those hangouts and attacking us, to me, are the lowest of lows. They are the worst of the worst if the earth is indeed flat, because they should be supporting our questioning the government and speaking out against the government. They should have the same fervor as us, and the most fervor, because they should know that the beast system was prophesied and it would be evil, and its ultimate ambition is to microchip everybody. And then they should be the most unbiased when it comes to the shape of the earth, because they should know that the Bible does at least make does have at least somewhat of a stance on it, that it's flat, and it's not moving. So they're to me they're way worse than atheist ballers, because atheist people need a baller. They can't have a flat plane with a dome over it, or else they're screwed basically. Atheism could die in a couple days, really, with a couple rigorous tests. And to me, it can evolve a drone or not, but something like that. Atheism will be destroyed if the earth is proven to be flat, and that test can be broadcast worldwide. And so that's this video got a little long, but I just kind of wanted to get all that out. We're living in very, very interesting times. I think that it's becoming very, very obvious that there's something wrong in the world. There's something really, really wrong, because no one's making any sense, and it's just the amount of lies and deception that's going on that is now very, very obvious is overwhelming. And so I just ask people to keep asking questions, but just do not be compromised by this system, because there's really nothing intelligent going on here, and all it can offer us is death and retardation. And so the way I see the world right now is you either have to be gay explicitly or be sympathetic to that lifestyle, be effeminate in the very least. You have to be an atheist, or you have to be stupid. So, and preferably the system wants us to be all three. They want us to be gay, atheist, and stupid. And so you have to be one of those in this system. And like I said, preferably all three. And so we have to be the opposite of that. We have to be courageous, stick up for other people, not effeminate, bold as when it's appropriate, anti-atheist. We have to have faith in God, and we have to be intelligent, and ask questions. And so we're all capable of that to the extent that God allows it. But I would just recommend people don't compromise on any of those. And then that's a good foundation, coupled with charity, and coupled with calling out sins in our own life and what's going on in the world. There's a good chance that there's an invitation to the kingdom of heaven. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.